Start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, I will show that all are present.
And I was early.
And early. Steve and Cindy have now switched places.
Oh, we.
Yeah, I think that's good. It just shows that you can change. You can change. You can change. Change, I don't know what, for the good or the ill. Conflict of interest, does anybody have anything? There doesn't look like there's anything here that could be a conflict. All right, going to the consent agenda, we have a number of warrants and need a motion to approve.
So move.
Okay. Second, that's Cindy, all those in favor? 7-9. Okay, two sets of minutes. The first is our regular board minutes from November 18th. James?
Move to approve.
With the
And I just had a
addition, right?
slight amendment.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Move to approve the minutes of December 9th.
Oh, excuse me, you want to make a slight amendment to the November 18th one, or?
Right, and I just handed.
Okay, you have
just
that, okay, yeah.
names and that sort of
All
thing.
right, so all those in favor of the November 18th minutes? Unanimous? And you also want to approve the December 9th special meeting? Okay, second to that? Second. Okay. That was our executive session to look at candidate resumes. All those in favor of that? We do have a number of different assessors abatements and supplements. Hard to put them all into one category with different reasons. Anybody from the assessing group want to talk about that?
Yeah, I would just say our committee met, we were with Bill and the town and reviewed what they brought to us. And then there was one addition that they needed to make to the document we had, and I think it's present in the copy that you have. So, you know, we always ask them questions. I feel like they're ready to move that this be approved.
13 different ones.
Yeah, we always hope for more stuff on the side.
Rather than abatement stuff. But you kind of have to give an abatement if the building has been demolished, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, if it's not there anymore.
Yeah,
It's only there.
good stuff.
yeah, we grilled them on all that, stuff, just so you know.
Okay. All right, Cindy, so I was thinking, you're making a motion.
I am.
We approve this, and it's seconded by.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? All right, moving on to open session, we have a public hearing scheduled for the general assistance ordinance and appendices for the 2024-2025 year. This is a routine housekeeping item that comes out every year. Figures are given to us by the state, Josh, is that correct?
Yeah, we follow the state's general assistance program. By doing that, we get reimbursed for 70% of the awards that we award. They update the ordinance and appendices every year. At minimum, they would update the appendices to reflect changes in rents. If rents go up in certain areas of the state, then the amount that we're allowed to assist would go up. So those are typically what we see every year. This year, there's a few on the ordinance side of it, but nothing drastically different. Just like you said, housekeeping.
And so, and the rates change by the market of the state. In other words, rents are much different and kind of unfortunate than they are in Dover-Foxcroft.
Exactly.
Members of the public, I'm sure you have all kinds of questions. Right?
I just have an update.
Well, no, we'll get to you next.
Okay.
We're only taking non-existent questions on general assistance.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
All right, hearing no questions, I will close the public hearing. Declare that we move on to open session for the public, where we get a chance to hear from Amanda on her report to us.
Amanda Stewart with the Scottsdale Area Community Center. I don't have a ton of updates from last time, but we are moving forward in a positive direction still. Last Wednesday, we had our walkthrough with the mediators from both sides and the attorneys. That went really well. As far as we know, there's only a couple of things that they need to tidy up on the Old Town side that they're planning to remove from the facility. It was agreed to on that. Still planning for a February 1st opening. Working with the Dexter Development Association a little bit in Dexter, to bring swim lessons to Dexter again. And then I did speak with the woman who runs the races here, the radar runs, and she has offered for her group to pay for free swim lessons for Dover kids to do the same exact program at the public beach here in Dover this summer. So we'll be able to offer that in both places. The Dexter Development Association kind of wants to bring some more lifeguarding to the Tri-County Tech Center. So I don't know what the opportunities would be for something like that in Dover-Foxcroft. We could do something at the high school. Love to do something like that. A question I have for you, how do we get one of those signs like at the end of the road that says, this way? Like there's one for the blacksmith shop and,
The blue ones?
and I think they're all kinds of colors. They're like on the street signs and they say like 0.4 miles this way.
There's one for Stutzman's,
Yeah.
for instance, going right, yeah.
So we can ask the main DOT to, do a sign. You would have to pay for it or pass it along to, the requester to pay for it. But they just have a uniform sign policy for directional signs. They're all gonna look the same,
Yeah.
be set up the same size and everything. But those can be just requested and done. And so I can get that process rolling for you to, at least get it started.
Okay,
It takes a few weeks.
I really appreciate that.
And isn't that renewed every year?
I think once the DOT, makes the sign and puts it up, it's up there until the location changes and that has to be changed or, the sign falls down and has to be replaced.
Or
Things like
they're
that.
like cut in half by a plow.
Yeah.
We lost one.
No,
I had the plow hit one on my front yard. Never been back up. Question for you, Amanda, on, do you have the official legal papers now to be your own entity? I'm just thinking ahead, we have this money left over that was budgeted for the YMCA. We've said that we'd like to use that. Your new group, are you at the point in your, development where you can receive those funds, or when do you think that would happen?
I would say no at the moment, but yes, we're at that place. We have our EIN established. We've applied for a 501c3, just waiting for that from the IRS. That's actually our only housekeeping piece of paperwork that we have left for Old Town Orono on our side. Is just waiting for that approval. And we did reach out to Senator Collins' office. So, waiting on that still. But we have our bank account set up and we were able to just secure an account with the Maine Community Foundation that they're holding for us. So anyone that wanted to do year-end contributions through stock distribution or retirement funds, can do that without it going into the other endowment. And once the endowment is brought back to us, then we'll be able to, combine those two accounts with the Maine Community Foundation. So that was a big win.
Yeah. All right, so when you get your authorization as a legal entity, then let us know, right? And
Yes.
I think we've
Yes.
indicated that we don't necessarily need to give you monthly installments. We could transfer all that money, $26,000 directly to your account, which would be a boost for you at the
It'd be very
early
helpful with
stage.
startup costs, yeah, for sure. Because we're not really sure what we're gonna need also for startups. It's gonna depend once we get into the facility and see what we need. So it could be a lot and it might be exactly like we left it. So I don't know that. And the only other thing, I did meet with the water district. They're unable to abate anything, so they just don't abate things. And so that was absolutely understandable. They did offer to put a sign up out front that says, we're looking for donations. And if you want donations, like reach out to the PACC. And they've also offered to stretch out the terms of our payment for us to help us so that we don't have that huge cost just up front. And then also securing a water meter because we have such an excessive water intake. I did the math and it's almost 5,000 gallons a week that we put in that we're not dumping to the sewer.
And that's just evaporating,
That's just evaporating out of the pool. So
which is why you need a system to handle all the
Yeah.
moist there,
yeah,
right?
exactly. So that's all I have.
Yeah, do you anticipate having a pool open in February?
So if we can close the transaction prior to the February 1st and we have a little bit of time, yes. It's probably going to realistically take a couple weeks to get the pool running once we get into the facility. Where it's drained, there are some silicone cracks that need to be properly sealed and we might as well paint it. And we do need to change the sand out in the filter. So I've reached out to a couple different pool companies to get quotes on that stuff. But the reality is that once we get back in, that's like my top priority because I think other people can handle the other parts of the facility. So as soon as I can have it, yes.
How's your office?
Oh, downtown? Lovely. The wind blew away my banner. So I did have to get a new banner. So that's actually, just wouldn't pick that up today. So that'll be back up tomorrow, but it's been perfect down there. Everybody had 20 visitors in there today, people stopping in and giving donations and seeing how we were doing and picking up raffle prizes. And it's been very nice. So Mr. Chassie's. Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Other questions from the public?
No.
All right, well, we'll close the public comment section. Yeah, I'm getting used to this truncated public comments. Although I do miss some of our former regulars. Open session for select board members. One thing I'd like to ask Alcina, I was going to give a update on the meeting we had with the Climate Action Advisory Committee, because they were keen to get the word out on the new notification system by Everbridge. Rather than talk about that myself, Alcina has been pushing that forward. Why don't you just tell people what it is and how they sign up with that?
Yeah, so Everbridge is our new notification platform that we're using for emergency alerts. And you can also sign up for severe weather alerts as well. You can either sign up online, or we have a fillable form here in the office, and I think it's been plastered around town as well. And all you have to do is turn that in, go ahead and enter in the computer, and then in the event, hopefully not in the event, but it's there if needed. We would then be able to push out alerts such as, the shelter in place or major road closures, lockdowns, stuff.
Everybody familiar with that? Yeah, and it is you can go right to the town website and there's
Yep.
an icon there. You can
Right to the website. And actually, if you can also download the app. It's a little tricky to kind of find us, but when you download the app, if you go into the search bar, lowercase Dover-Foxcroft, and it'll come up. You can't count for whatever reason. It won't let you do any variation, even though I put those variations in. But it's very convenient that you can download it or sign up that way as well through the actual Everbridge app as well.
So, and just to be clear, there are certain things that will not come across, AKA schools closed.
That's correct. Yes.
Or, power on Norton Hill is out. That's not
Yes,
gonna.
we want to avoid notification fatigue.
Right.
And I know a lot of people, and I want to say it was a glitch. 3 storms ago when the power went out and winter storm weather alert went out, it was like 3 a.m. So apologies for that, everybody. That wasn't my fault. That comes like a third party. But
That's the deniability for that.
Yeah.
What about drones flying over downtown?
Once again, I won't be posting anything about
Okay.
that.
All right.
It's just imminent threat type situations or whatever police chief or
So you coordinate with the public safety.
That's correct, yes.
Our frontline warrior.
And the only other
Yes,
thing
sir.
I'll add about that is that people can, when they sign up, they can choose if they want text messages, if they want emails, if they want a actual robo phone call to a landline phone, all of the above, or just one or two. So it's pretty user friendly. You can get the alerts you want in whatever way you want. Just sign up.
Yeah, I thought I signed up on election night, but have I done something wrong? Because I haven't had a notice. Do I need to review what?
I will have to check and see what went wrong with you.
Yeah, a lot of people just sign up during the election. There's almost over 300.
Yeah. We had to figure it out.
I mean, I signed up for it and I've gotten the one at 4 o'clock in
Yes.
the morning and I panicked. Oh my word, what happened? Oh my word.
Not getting notifications
I can't
is a good thing. That means there's nothing to
True,
know about.
exactly.
All right, other members of the board. Item C.
I just want to congratulate Jack again on the Pete Myrick Award. A number of us were there. It was a large crowd. There were some faces of the past
Yeah.
drifted in. Dan Thomas Ketteridge reminded me as he left here 14 years ago. So, yeah. So anyway, it was great. Food was awesome. It was great to use space. We had some discussion at our table again about how important it is to the community that basically the Sucker Hall exists again as a usable space, and it's a great place.
And I just want to say thanks for everyone that was able to attend that, and certainly nothing I expected or ever anticipated in a million years, but very much appreciated.
This is your life. Remember the TV show?
Yeah.
Came out.
About the barefoot kicking.
Yeah.
That was fascinating.
Was it true?
Oh, yeah, no, I did, and so I think one of the coaches came up with the idea, and I was doing it, and I wasn't really missing doing that, and then, you know, I was pretty accurate, and then we get to a game, and it's kind of raining, and it's cold, and I kick it through, and then the whistle blows, and it says, no good. And, what? And it's like, we can't count that because you don't have a full uniform on. You need to have both yours. And the coaches are like, where did this come from? Because we've been doing it all season. I'm like, nope, but we'll let him re-kick. And, so they get back out there, put your shoe on, and don't miss. No pressure. But that was it. That was the last barefoot kick.
Right.
Up in Lincoln.
So did you bronze your sneaker or?
No, that needed to go in the trash after the season.
Not exactly a life skill, but.
No.
Flexibility is important. That's why, you know.
Other comments from board members? Remember,
I just feel I have something to say, but first up, knowing that, I think about 1981, I won a, corn shucking contest at Stutzman Farm. And the bit of that was you had to do it with your feet. So I just want to say, Greg, that I won. But besides that, I mean, if you're gonna upgrade, and that's pretty good. We've been through 2 pretty wet, terrible, filthy, rotten 5-8 inches of snowstorms and rain. How's our gear? Trucks and plows and, but I mean, how are we going? Have we got trouble? Have we made it through?
We're doing well, and every time I ask that question, I get this look like, please don't jinx us.
Yeah,
So far so good.
that was pretty heavy, filthy snow. My snow blower didn't like it at all.
well, you can buy a used sidewalk plow. It's not-
Yeah.
it's not translated on East Main Street. Like, I'm sure we can.
I have enough
We
conversations
can make
with
it-
my plow, sidewalk plow going. And I had a second bit to that. How's our gear? Yes. Can't think what the second one was, sorry. That was on there.
Did anybody ask, complain to you about
No,
clearing?
no, I'm just asking again how the rain affected the roads and the gravel roads mainly, and if we come out of that okay, and it's frozen up again maybe, or.
I think we lucked out.
We were able to get on the gravel roads and didn't make too much of a mess. You know,
Right.
Sometimes it was really soft and you had to put a plow truck on it, you see the ruts, but we got through that really well.
Right, that's
This
all,
time of year.
that's all I wanted to know
Yeah.
is, it was filthy snow, wasn't it?
Better than last.
Oh, I'm sorry, I remember.
I'm sorry, I remember.
The review of the streets and the roads and stuff after the storms. Do we have a program in place where we do review where we've plowed, what it looks like, and go back over and check our intersections? I will just say the Pole Street, which is probably Pole Street and Pole Street and West Main, where it's probably one of the heavier traffic roads because of the hospital and parking. It seems to be closed right up awfully tight, and I think, will they come back and push it back out of the way? That's all I want to know. Do we have follow-up programs?
They will, they'll go back after the initial storm and widen areas and they'll push back corners because you get like to the end of like Grain Street, for example, where you're coming up. And if you get that pile of snow, it's hard to see the road left. So they'll go back through and try to deal with all those different issues. Sometimes a turn or intersection used to get narrow and coming off Essex Street Bridge and turn on to Lincoln Street, that would get kind of narrow. They go back and widen that.
Right.
Other comments from the board members?
It's gonna sound really silly, Jack, but can we ask Tom not to plow the snow in the flower garden out here and push it up against the building? Yeah? It's just something that just bugs me. I don't like seeing snow plowed up against the building.
Yeah.
It should be away from it.
Other comments? No.
So, on the road issue, I see the comments online and, I think it's kind of nice. The majority of the town actually, appreciates what our crews do.
Oh, yeah.
People go on there and I know they get upset about potholes, they complain about, there's a big one near McDonald's all the time, but typically it's in the parking lot. So like it's not, it's not what we would try to be handling. But it's great seeing a lot of people very appreciative of the roads being clear, that there's good communication. I noticed when we lost power for a bit, I guess the transfer station had to close because there was no power.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me to ask that we don't have generators for our transfer station. Which means when there's no power, they can't operate, which something we probably should address because worst case scenario happens and we lose power for a certain period of time. We still need that place to run. I mean, people got to get rid of their stuff.
Can't compact the garbage without power.
I feel, I mean, we could ask them to. I feel like
Take a few people to go in there and stomp
it's
around.
gonna take a while.
Yeah.
But I think we should look at with infrastructure, making sure that our facilities have what we need because, on top of that, I want to make sure that our EMS folks as well, whoever we're using for internet as an example, I mentioned it before. Depending on where you are, their substations only have a limited amount of juice for their generators. So I found out couple of years back, we lost power, that even though I had power at my house with my generator, my internet was useless because all the substations ran out. When I called them, they were nice to inform me that they're good for about 24 to 48 hours. And I didn't say what popped into my head because it was inappropriate. But I said, how does that work in rural communities then that traditionally you're going to see them lose power? And is it automated? And they didn't really have a lot of answers for me. So I think that's one thing we should be talking about too, is making sure that our different areas that we rely on, especially warming and cooling shelters we're trying to set up, they need to have enough resources built in. Because there's no point saying it's good to go, but they can't operate.
One on the generator. Other comments from the board? I was asked to just give a brief update on where we stand with the search for the town manager. So we have been advertising that position since early November. Received over 24 applications for it. I hesitate to throw the number out. It sounds impressive, but it's not how many people have applied, it's how many fully qualified people have applied. There's a big difference between the raw number of applications and the fact that of that total, maybe a half dozen are, have the minimum qualifications we're looking for. So we are having our first interview with a candidate this week, all of us together. We've got our questions ready and we'll see how that process goes. We'll hope that we can surface some additional candidates that rise to the level of having that initial interview with the board. So we're making progress. The big question is, well, when will we have someone on duty? Well, it's impossible to forecast, but I would be surprised if it would happen in January. I think that maybe February will be more likely to have someone on board because we're looking for people who are already have the job that have to give notice in their current position before they come here to Dover-Foxcroft. So we're working on it, and that seems some fun. All right, we'll close the open session for the select board. Everybody's had a chance to give their piece. I would want to make two changes, additions to the agenda. One item would be Dover-Foxcroft Police Department outside detail pay rate. We'll make that item number G. The second is a bingo game of chance permit for the local American Legion post, and that would be item H. And we'll move the town manager's report down to item I. In terms of committee reports, we did give an update on the Promotion and Development Committee in terms of the Everbridge notification system. I noticed that the Protection Committee met on Friday, December 13th. That's an interesting day to talk about the continuing discussions on EMS service. It was interesting. The Sheriff Bob Young appeared before the county commissioners this month to let them know that, the problems that county dispatch is having with finding ambulances too. It's not just Dover-Foxcroft. Bob said that often, it's very frustrating for the staff because they'll put out a notification that someone needs an ambulance, and then trying to find someone who will actually show up is becoming increasingly difficult. Waits of 45 minutes or longer are not unusual. So he's seeing that countywide. It's not just in our town. And so I think we're, looking at it is, and realizing we do have a problem, don't realize it's a problem here, and adding, more folks out there that can respond and more ambulances is important. It's tough right now. So it's a statewide national problem. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but it's a problem that's not going away.
No, and, the protection committee met Friday. They're going to talk about where we are in the process, and one of the next steps, being to, proceed with a needs assessment feasibility study to get licensed through, Maine EMS. The law stipulates that before they issue a transport license, they have to establish it's necessary, that it's needed. And so that really is the next step. I guess there's been some law changes. Very recently, and there's a little bit of head scratching to say, okay, there's some time frames that come into play in terms of when you have the needs assessment, when you get a license, and then when you actually need to begin to offer the service. And so we want to have some support with legal advice in terms of making sure we navigate that process of getting a license so that we understand what our requirements are when. We did learn that our current firm, Eaton Peabody, can't represent us on that matter because they have other matters with New Light. So we've been able to find another attorney who's been in municipal law for over 20 years, former Maine Municipal Association attorney, and she's willing to help us, with that particular issue and not conflicted and navigate us through that. So we're on track, and that will play out over the next several weeks, I guess, to get that needs assessment done, and then kind of go from there with full understanding of what the next steps are, what our timeframes are.
And I'll just add that, this wasn't part of our meeting, but after our neighbors, I'm directionally challenged, Florence,
WDD.
had posted, that they recently acquired an ambulance and they had an open house. So I grabbed my grandkids, we went and saw Santa, and had a nice little discussion with their staff down there. And they're kind of in the similar.
Same boat.
Santa was actually out on the streets of East Corinth waving, and the select board were on the fire truck. No pressure, but
We gotta go.
we do ours in the summer, so.
Right, for the parade. Sure. All right, so that takes care of the committee reports. Unfinished business, anyone want to bring anything up that we've talked about now?
Yes.
All right. Let's move on to our new business agenda. The first is the liquor license renewal and special amusement permit for the Bears Den. Their paperwork is in order. Well-established business. Chief, any issues with compliance or anything?
No, I know there's been, Bears Den has received some flack from one of our fatal accidents.
Remember that, yeah, right.
But I do know that liquor enforcement was heavily involved with investigating that on that end, and they came back finding that they had not done anything wrong. So,
good. Occasionally hear people complain about the loudness of the music there. I have promised to tone down my karaoke, and unfortunately not. Anybody else have any comments on Bears Den? The motion to approve the liquor license renewal.
Move to approve.
Second. Joel, thank you. All those in favor? And the motion goes along with that to approve their special amusement permit for next year. Okay. favor? Good. All right, general assistance ordinance, given the extensive, public, input that we've received at our public hearing, we need to adopt the, ordinance for the fiscal year, ending in September of 2025. Motion to that effect.
Move to approve as written.
Yeah. Second. Emery. All in favor?
Well, can I ask a
Oh, go ahead.
question? Yeah, I just wonder how our, applications compare over the years. Are you seeing an increase?
Really haven't seen an increase this year over past years. But we are heading into the season. Where we're going to see the requests come in, starting to come into the system. But so far, it's right on par. And if there's any uptick, honestly, I think that uptick wouldn't be overall assistance, but it seems to be a little bit more assistance with cost of burials, because we can divide it for services or cremation drilling is what GA allows. And so there have been, I think, a few more cases where there've been families without means or situations where there's no funds available to take care of that. That need. So, but overall, no, it's very, very in line with past years.
So all in favor of adopting the ordinance? That is, and I do have the signature sheet, which is how we sign most things before the meeting starts. This one specifically says we have to wait until after our vote to sign. I'm legally compliant in all aspects. So was that your note?
What's the minutes before?
It has great power. She's the only one that can tell me what to do. Except for my wife and my.
Yeah,
father.
there are.
All the people on this board, and yeah. Other than that, I'm in full. All right, item number C is the demolition proposal for 130 Pleasant Street, which we've been talking about for over a year now. And so nice, the contractor who has done some previous work for us recently on Grand Street is interested in doing this project. And it's given us a quote of $23,300. This is the building that's on Pleasant Street that's right behind the store there. It's terrible shape, and it's already been declared by this board to be uninhabitable. We've heard from the neighbors, and they really like to get that eyesore out of their neighborhood. So I think that's great that we can jump on that and finish her. So what's your pleasure?
Less than I thought it would have been, honestly. It's time it comes down, because we were at this point not that long ago, and then the bank kind of called it off.
It's sad when they built the store, from my understanding, wanted to buy that to create more space on the corner there of East Main and Pleasant Grove. So they didn't do that, but good old town has to still do that. Yes.
So did we clarify, is it bank owned or?
Yeah.
Someone.
Yes.
I thought someone purchased it.
No, this one on Pleasant Street is owned by a mortgage company.
Oh.
That's just been very non-responsive. Well, initially they seemed to be a little bit responsive until it came down and needed to be removed. They did get a crew in there about a year ago now, clean it up. But after that was just been kind of hands off.
The at our last meeting, we talked about another one nearby on Pleasant Street that has the retaining wall. That's
Yes.
coming from.
Like right across the street.
Yeah, that's in that, and I went back and looked at that. That's a railroad tie retaining wall. So it's not. I guess I felt less dangerous than if it was masonry of all big stones that were going to collapse on you. But still, I wouldn't want to have a railroad tie on my head either. So, and the company is DMJ Waste from Winterport. Yeah, thanks. So, I need a motion to approve the proposal from DM&G Waste to get that project done. So, no. Second. All in favor? All right.
Just a quick thing that's being passed around. It looks like we needed to.
2 pages?
Yeah. So we'll send it to Joel, then we'll.
Yeah, I got
some right on
I'll
that.
sign it again.
I'm doing
Thanks for keeping me on it from that stage. So.
Well,
Okay. so we got that. Good to see us making progress with this demolition. Item D is the construction agreement with the Maine Department of Transportation for the project they have planned for this summer at the intersection of South Street and Main Street. And this is a pretty routine item, Jack.
This is very routine. So what the DOT does when they have a project is they put basically an agreement out to the towns that they all say the same thing. If for some reason the contractor needed to travel on town roads to access this project that's on a state road. And if that local road was posted to a weight limit, that we would be willing to work with them to give them a permit to still use the road. And we could require them to bond to guard against damage to the road. And so they just need to know, and all those details don't need to be worked out ahead of time. It's just that we'd be willing to have a reasonable, work reasonably with them to accommodate the project and issue the permit and, and enter into a bond if we wanted to. With this particular project, I would not foresee that being necessary because it's literally on the intersection of two state roads. So it's probably unlikely that the contractor is going to have to even access any town roads to get to that. But other areas might be a different story.
Are they going to use as a marshalling area that little parking lot next to the redemption center? That
I am going to assume that they would because DOT owned.
Yeah.
So either if there's enough room there, if if they needed to go over onto the redemption center, they have to just have permission.
Right. Pay them a little fee for that.
What if,
Yeah, sorry.
I totally bring the big machinery in and let's get her done. But if they back into that parking lot, which they own, and we happen to have our main water line and our main fiber optic cable and our main whatever there, and it gets squished and ruined, are we liable for that, or is
I'm not aware that we have any infrastructure
Right.
underneath that, but the contractor would be liable for the damages they caused in doing their work.
Right.
It's like if they dug the hole and didn't call who safe, they would break a line and have to fix it.
All right, so we need a motion to approve the construction agreement between the town and MDDOT regarding that intersection.
One of us got it and one of us got the other
I'll
one.
say, Steve, you got it, and Cindy will be second. We're all in favor of that because we'd like to get that.
absolutely?
Okay.
Bring them.
All right. Next item E is the Maine paid family medical leave, and this is a change in our contribution. Jack, you want to go over that?
Well,
for us?
I
Or
can speak
Cindy,
to
or-
the
okay.
committee
No.
and then Jack can
Yeah.
add to it. We're aware that it's a 1%, tax to fund the family leave act, which is where we need. And the question is, would the town pay the 1%, or would we split it with the employees? And so we talked about what are towns around us doing, and then I also noticed in the school department material that we received that they were splitting it with employees. And so that's our recommendation, that we do half and employees do half.
Share the cost.
And then if, this being a new initiative and a new benefit, it could change in future. And we might feel like we wanted to provide the full 1%, but one of the other things we talked about was our fairly generous health insurance coverage that we provide. And so we felt comfortable doing half and half.
Anything to add?
Just that it's very common that these are split half and half. Much less common that the employer would pay the whole thing. And it's something that ultimately accrues a benefit to the employee by having this program in place and funded. So it's not like it's money that they would not potentially benefit from under certain circumstances. So
Under a lot of circumstances.
under a lot, and then, thank you, very good.
So do you want to move that?
I will move on.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Item F is to renew the appointment for registrar of voters, and we have to renew Sonia Squires as interim registrar of voters.
And so just to kind of clarify that, the registrar appointment runs on a 2-year cycle, and so it's up, and just because we technically have an interim, we're basically renewing the interim status. Once that it gets removed, and you know, she or whoever becomes the appointed registrar, then we'd probably just do another one of these for the remainder of this 2-year term. But Julie realized that we're just on a cycle to speak to it, you know, now in terms of, you know, so to renew the existing interim is probably the way to go. You know.
So the one that we approved that had the, poll workers, that remains?
You might remember back in, might have been April, we appointed Julie as interim town clerk, and we appointed Sonia's interim registrar of voters. Basically, all we're doing is renewing that registrar voter interim appointment, because it's at the end of this 2 years cycle of registrar voters.
So the 2-year chunk that she filled.
From April till now was the end of the 2 years.
Right.
Gotcha. But my question was, so what we approved in April of probably a year ago, does that stand for a 2-year period?
No, what we did in April as far as naming interims,
No,
well,
I'll
You mean-
withdraw my
you mean the
question.
ballot
I'll withdraw my question.
You're talking about ballot.
Yeah.
oh,
I'll
that-
withdraw my question.
Okay.
All right, so we had a motion from Cindy on the floor, second. Thank you, Mary. All those in favor of Sonia Squires? One. Okay, so we've added 2 new items. First is Chief Burns on pay rate proposal for police officers to work outside details. That you've given us a nice narrative here.
Yeah, so really what we're looking for is at current policy is if we have an outside vendor detail, any potential grant details that are paid for by grant, or any vendor that's non-town owned that comes in and asks for us to do a detail like a FA football game or things of that nature. We are really struggling under the current policy to fill those details. And basically what we pay is if it's a reserve officer, they get their standard hourly rate. If it's a full-time officer, they would get either their standard rate or time and a half, depending on where the detail falls in the work. So what I'm requesting is that we extend that to the double time pay rate, regardless of the officer that works it. And this would have pretty minimal, well, before I get to that, it would be a double time pay rate at a minimum of a 3-hour detail. So the numbers we came up with for the first 3 hours, we would bill out $200 for that 3 hours. And that $200 would cover the pay rate, as well as there's a few additional costs that come with a higher pay, like insurance and things like that. The town would have to cover as well. So then after that initial 3-hour minimum, any additional time tacked onto that, we would just pay on an hour-by-hour basis at a rate where we would bill at a rate of $65 an hour. And then in addition to that, if the detail requires a cruiser, i.e. it's a CMP needs us to close a road down so they can do work where we have to have a cruiser with lights, there'd be an additional $25 an hour for that, which is actually pretty standard within the law enforcement community. And I believe that this will increase the ability to fill some of these details. And really my concern comes down to, because we've had 3 opportunities since I've been chief to do some ATV enforcement details with the warden service, that they applied and got the grants, and we just aren't filling. And at some point, we're gonna lose those opportunities. And then I've also had guys that are interested in bringing in OUI details and things like that, but I'm not gonna apply for those grants, knowing that we're struggling to fill details now, because those are the kinds of grants, if you put in for them and you get them and you don't fill them, you're not gonna get them for a couple of years after that. So I think this really makes us pretty competitive on trying to get some of these details filled. And that benefits the community pretty immensely.
Questions for the chief? Yes.
Did this, go to the protection committee?
Yeah, we talked.
And so are there comments from the protection committee?
No, again, it was presented and it makes sense to offer the service and at the same time to encourage that folks, and this is full-time, correct?
This would be for everybody.
Oh, okay.
The other, another aspect of that would be to allow any salaried employees, which I'm the only salary employee, that we have in the agency right now, to allow me to also take those details, at that pay rate. Because these details are reimbursable details. So we pay out initially, but then we get refunded. We bill for our time on these.
And it would be a rotating list, so it's not gonna be the same people that have the first choice. So it would, someone's at the top of the list. If they don't take the shift, then it goes to the next one, and then somebody says, yes, I want it. They go to the bottom of the list, and then it keeps going. So it's very, very equitable in how these would be awarded, so that you're just not gonna have the same person or people on the top of the list always getting, we want everybody to benefit from this.
And it's explained in this letter.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
I just have one other question, which is kind of standard for the departments around us as well. So like CMP isn't gonna say, what are they doing over Foxcroft or whatever, is it? It's kind of a common rate.
There's really no standard way of doing it. There's some agencies that have just a flat set rate. And I'll use East Millinocket as an example. When we had outside vendor details in East Millinocket, it was $75 now, regardless of who you were. So there's agencies that will do a flat rate, and then there's agencies that will do things like, it's time and a half, but a minimum of 4 hours or 6 hours or something like that. So it's really kind of all over the place as to where those fall. But I think doing it at double time at a 3-hour minimum is pretty competitive. I've had conversations with the folks that we tend to get a lot of the outside vendor details from, the schools and the theater for the Whoopie Pie Festival. I've talked to them and given them a heads up, and pretty much the answer I've gotten is, why did it take so long? So I think they understand the need for it to get these details filled, and I haven't gotten any pushback from any of our regular requesters.
Thank you.
And, we'll add too that in our discussions, we talked about the future, of course, right? And some of the grants out there, like from the game wardens, we're trying to go to your trail system. We can have law enforcement out there doing their thing and checking on stuff. A lot of the grants they offer, they have an amount they're willing to give you, but it's based on usage. So they give you, let's say, $2,000 for the year for something, and you're using it, they actually give you more. It's not like they cap you. They want it to be invested in the community. So I think this is a great step forward. It's why we were very happy about this. We'll see. I think we all see the complaints once in a while about people on the road or snowmobile trail. This may open the door for us to have a little leeway that if there really is an issue, we now have people that say, hey, I'll go up for a couple hours and just help try to sort this out. The other thing with those kinds of grants, the more you do them I guess the better the performance is, you're also tend to be eligible for equipment. So if we'll just use the ATV grant as an example. If we do 3 or 4 years of these grants and we're really knocking them out of the ballpark, that actually can potentially open us up to get a grant, to get either side by side or an ATV to use for those. Those come around occasionally, you know, it's not every year, but if we can show consistently that we're filling these details and we're producing from them, that just gives us a better chance of potentially getting some equipment that we wouldn't just go out and buy, you know, ordinary.
Prepared to vote, need a motion? To adopt the, detailed pay rates as, presented by chief?
Majority.
I don't remember frankly.
I'll move it.
Thank you.
Second.
We're all in favor of that?
John?
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, and then the other addition we had was from the American Legion. We all have a copy of that. There's a blanket letter of approval for the Chadburn Middle Post to operate Vino Bingo and Game of Chance during the 2025 year. So,
I'll move it.
Cindy, okay.
And it's not conflict of interest, because I never play.
You never played bingo. Time to get involved with bingo. All right, we'll move to second. All those in favor? Well, is that included in our documents to be signed, or should I? Yeah, it's right in there. Are those all the signed? Good. Hand it back to you. So, Jack's town manager report.
So when we were talking about Pleasant Street demolition and kind of sidewalk retaining wall, I did want to note that, Brian and Jeff, went and looked at that retaining wall, and they looked at the town's right-of-way area, and, the failing portion, probably the whole thing, just a couple different levels of the retaining wall. But that initial level that's got the most, risk of, shifting and moving, is within the town's right of way. So we have the ability to take steps, within that area. So we're just keeping an eye on it, and we'll do some, temporary measures with, Jersey barriers or something, so that the sidewalk will be safe to use, continue to use. But then the broader question will be is, if we do some type of permanent repair there, what does that look like? But we certainly time to figure that out. We can address any risk of that retaining wall, moving anymore, or presenting a hazard to anybody using the sidewalk. We have a lot of right of way on Pleasant Street. That's a wide street. You all have in your correspondence the Kleinschmidt report that was delivered last week, I believe, or the end of the prior week, I guess. And they really kind of went through the points of review and analysis of our earlier report, and made some pretty similar findings. There's the two there's kind of two revenue models at play, and so this is obviously going to be discussed in depth at the next dam review committee meeting this week, Wednesday evening this week, and also be a representative from Kleinschmidt to kind of go over it, answer questions, and stuff like that. But, we do have that information, and that's I think really going to be helpful for the process, moving forward in terms of what's going to get moved in and moved out from here.
They actually found out that if anything, we underestimated the cost of repairing the jam.
Yeah.
Just what I needed to hear, that it's actually $3 million more expensive than we had earlier set, which a lot of people could freak out then. So it's like, okay. Nothing you can tell me about the dam would be surprising.
We had a very informative meeting back on December 4th with the DOT here in this room, talking about Essex Street Bridge. So the Lincoln Street, that's me getting my bridges confused. The Essex Street Bridge.
It's easy to start looking.
Yeah. I'm not. So yeah, Essex Street Bridge. We got timeline, we got scope information. um, putting it out to bid in early 2025, start date early 2026, and full, access, will be very late 2027. So really all of 2026 and a lot of 2027, the bridge will be under construction. There's not going to be like a temporary lane that is always going to be accessed with lights or anything like that, because there's just not enough width to install that. It's basically going to be a bridge closure. And then as they're completing that, they did say that if there's a period of time when they're not done, but they can open it to one lane and do the lights, and like you see on some of these rural bridge projects, they're willing to do that just to kind of get it open sooner, but that's what we were told. We recorded the meeting and we have it on our YouTube channel, so if anybody wants to watch it and get all the information in the PowerPoint that we got, it's available that way. And do we have the PowerPoint also on our, do we have theirs?
So, there is a link to Maine DOT's website, and I also shared it on social media that if anyone wanted to do any public comments and whatnot and see the presentation, you can go on there and also leave comments for Maine DOT to see. Because I noticed a lot of people were commenting on the Facebook page posts, but Maine DOT's not on there. I went into their, so no, please go to the actual website to comment so that they actually.
The comments on the appropriate comments.
Yeah.
And get the information you're looking for.
Yeah.
Rather than this. Thank you, Alcina.
And in terms of climate action work, Alcina's been busy on another grant application through the Resilience Partnership. The grants that we've been accessing used to max out at 50. Now that this particular one has been bumped up to 75,000, where we're looking for funding to help us with recruitment and training of volunteers, and the Warming Center space itself, making sure that it has what that space needs in terms of technology and internet access, maybe some ADA issues, just to make sure that they're as workable and as accommodating as we can make those spaces. In terms of what we've heard from the Piscataquis County Economic Development Council, we got some good news from them that they were able to get funding from the Maine Connectivity Authority there's some funding in EMDC's greater region, but there's MCA is considering Piscataquis County a subregion for digital literacy, digital equity funding. So they have funding now for the next 2 years for staff support out in the community of Piscataquis County for people to get help accessing the internet if they need it, or finding subsidized programs to get a lower cost for internet access, and also helping people direct them to, if they need telehealth, where that might be available or accessible to them. So we're going to have those resources for the next couple of years through PCEC. That's about all I have.
Any questions for Jackson?
Just a comment, because I just got connected to video, and that's great. And then I had to call like a 14-year-old from church to come really help me, and he may need to come back, but it's, not everybody has that 14-year-old they can call. So this is a really good thing, and I just wonder how that will get shared with people so that people feel really comfortable asking for help.
And that's part of what PCDC will be doing. If they will be promoting this, we'll be putting it out there. John Boynton will be their staff person doing it. And so what I would say at this point, call the PCDC office, say that, certain things, how to, get information on certain things, and we get a return phone call from John.
So it's effective immediately?
Yep.
Yeah, Washington County did a lot of work on this, and they found out that, getting the connection is one thing, but teaching people how to actually use the internet appropriately is a big step for a lot of people.
Well,
So,
it's not only that, but I just got Fidium. I had 2 devices that connected as they should. And I had 3 devices that absolutely refused to connect with it. And I'm technically savvy, and I got frustrated after an hour, and I said, "I'll deal with it later."
no 14-year-old in your house.
No, although I act like one. So.
Really heartening to hear from you though, because you
Yeah.
know.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, I mean, it's just your usual thing. It's supposed to just work, and then it doesn't. And then trying to, my first swipe at finding the workaround didn't yield the workaround. So I haven't called their tech support yet.
Yeah, the guy that came to my house was just great. He was like 7 feet tall, so with his hard hat on, he hit the door frame every time he hit it.
Which is why we're the hard.
Not a problem you typically have. But.
No, it's just such a amenable, nice person.
Yeah, I made pizza for my guys.
Oh, geez.
It was cold. They had bought a stove to make their own pizza because, you know, they're caravanning it everywhere. And, they're like, "Oh, I didn't get the right fitting for it. Can I trouble you?" I'm like, yeah. Like, you want some? I'm like, just 8, but.
Any other follow-up questions for John? Rick, go ahead.
Off topic completely, but Jack, every time we're talking about one of these demolitions in town, which I'm all for, and let's do it and move on, but at some stage, can we actually have some sort of presentation by you or someone that's what is actually happening with the land and who owns what and who and the value and the 23,000 that we're spending to take it down and do we get that back or don't we, or is every house different? And so maybe just a rundown at some stage to really look at what are we doing? I love it. Let's tear them down and build
might
new
be
ones.
the one to. Yeah, it really is very legal. Legal mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot easier if it's tax acquired property, we own it.
Yes.
You know, and then if
But these are
we
not
don't,
normal.
then, it's just a matter of, assessing the supplemental tax against the property. And then, that tax bill will be equivalent to our costs in that, just, you know, in that, remediation of the dangerous building conditions, which is starting to result in removing them. And that becomes the tax and,
Right. So that does happen now.
Yeah.
Okay, I was, at the last meeting, I was like, well, we're not just adding Grange Street. We don't just add that to something or other and get it all back, but.
Well, put it back on the tax rolls is what's the ideal solution to that after that happens? I mean, make it back into a house lot.
Yes,
Have encourage people to purchase that. I already know someone who's looking at buying a lot and putting a house on.
Right.
That's, it's got utility connections on most of these places. That's worth something too.
And the way to think of it too is we do a tax commitment every August or September. I guess we've been doing them late August or early September. I guess late August. And that's the main tax commitment when we put the tax bills out. We do one more tax commitment as supplemental tax commitment. So on this agenda, we had abatements and supplements. Supplements were things that might have been missed, acreages that might have been wrong that produces a supplemental tax bill because the first one was incomplete or incorrect, That supplemental tax commitment actually happens in May. So all of these issues that we find that generate supplemental taxes go into one tax commitment at the end of the year. Then that will have its own set of due dates as far as putting a lien notice on the supplemental tax and everything. So when you see that in May, you should make sure you see Grange Street and supplemental tax and Pleasant Street and anything else that we spent money on should be on the supplemental tax list in May.
Now, and Jack, there's a new law regarding if it's tax acquired and it's worth $1 million and we sell it for 2 million, and that profit needs to go back to the landowner,
Yeah.
property owner.
Yes.
So is it that simple? Or is it complicated?
Well, that's the general thrust, but yeah, it's not like we were coming up with a lot of properties when we were making big dollars.
Right.
Usually like this, we're eating.
Yeah, we're in the hole.
Oh, yeah.
But it's really worth it to satisfy the neighbors. I mean, the abutting property owner on Bud Street, I got to know over the last year and a half, just to talk to her about that. He's constantly asking when what's the latest. She's really delighted to hear the latest is they're going to
So we have questions though about the process of
Yeah.
getting that. in.
It
Like,
can
there was
be-
a guy here a few months ago.
Yeah.
How do I
Yeah.
know what's available?
It can be very
And
complicated.
so let's, for instance, Grange Street, is it available now?
No, see, it was never tax acquired. It was only, it always stayed current, not current, but it was always stayed out of tax acquired status. We just issued an order against the property because it was dangerous and said, someone, preferably you, owner, need to remove the structure. But, if you don't within a certain amount of time, we have the right to do that, and improve our costs. So these are cases where they stay in private ownership. We acted upon the order that we issued, through the process that the statute allows us to do, and John guides us through that. We have the hearing and so forth, and we issue the order. And so that's different than if we just come upon a tax acquired property and find that the building's dangerous and then remove that structure. It's a different, we haven't done any of those recently that I can think of. So,
Just then about Union Street, because the abutter bought that, right?
Yep.
But that wasn't an open process.
right, so that was completely a private transaction and a private endeavor, so to speak, right? The property owner has an order against it. We said this building has to go. And we were preparing ourselves to remove that structure. The owner negotiated a sale to a third party, and the third party transacted that sale and then removed the structure. So we were not in a position to need to act upon our authority, right, to do anything, because it was taken care of. So,
And so that answers some of your questions, right? They're all
Absolutely.
different, right?
Yeah.
They really are all different, and some of them are, a lot of this stuff is bank acquired property, but a lot of times, the person that's been living there for 60 years dies, leaves no surviving family members, what do you do? Eventually you find the family member goes through probate and they put it up for sale, but it's frustrating because the process is almost designed not to go quickly. And that's why people are frustrated. Well, it took you 2 years to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty quick.
And that's
That's
right.
about the norm. But I knocked more down in the last 2 years than I can recall. That's what I was doing.
Well, now we want the new homes.
Yeah, right. Now if they become a buildable lot again, encourage people to take a look. Good. All right, moving on. I guess we talked about the client report, which is definitely worth reading. Although it's just the demand goes on. Opening, we have the open session for closing remarks. Do you have anything final to say, Amanda, at all? Or, you're a token member of public. Oh, sometimes you count as a member of the public, even though you're not employed.
You can afford to state your name?
Yes.
Yeah, who are you?
Just a quick clarification on the wage, for the paid family medical leave. Is that a per paycheck deduction or is that a one-time?
no, it's a payroll deduction.
Okay.
Payroll deduction.
So it's 1% for your full salary, so that would be broken up over pay periods? Is that how that?
Yeah,
works?
so whatever the pay is for that pay period, 1% of it will have to be paid to the state and one half of it will come as an employee payroll deduction, and the other half will be a.
Including 1% of all the new detail money you're gonna be making.
Right.
You gotta get our cut of that.
Should have amended it to 300.
Yeah.
All my guys have had their babies.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're through that right now.
Don't have to worry.
For a while.
TMI.
Any final thoughts from the board members before we turn to executive sessions? All right, so we have two executive sessions, and we will have two separate, sessions. We'll come out of the first one and then have another vote to go into the second one. The first one is a economic development issue. You can see the citation for the Title I. So I need a motion on that.
Moving to executive session for MRSA Title I, 405, subsection 60.
Excellent. Economic development. And the second is by Steve. Again, this is a classic example of why you talk about something not in open session. We're talking about a potential deal that the person presented this one wants to remain confidential. So, motion and second, all those in favor of entering executive session? Nothing at the time is.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.